These were in the war years. The war had begun. This is 42. We had air raids. And we had an air raid drill. Anyhow, Wesley and I were walking down the street when the air raid drill sounded. The law was you must take shelter in the first public building when that air raid siren sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first public building for us was a big church. So we went up to the church door, knocked on the door, and the pastor opened the door. Now, when he saw we were black, he slammed the door in our faces. That, perhaps, was my first experience in racism that I later was never to forget.
Now, when I got to college, it was different. There you had at Harvard, black kids from all over the country, and I, you notice right away when you walk into the dining hall, the tables of the black kids, the black students who were sitting together.
Yeah.
And then there were the few other black students who mingled with white students, But there, I felt this. I got this sense of, I didn't, sometimes talk black enough, or I had white friends, and that was, I was regarded as kind of suspicious there. And then also, this whole thing with speech and how you talk, it was, white kids as much as black kids who would say to me, who I could see, were surprised by my voice, and surprised by my using, proper English and not being, not fitting their image of how a black person was supposed to be.
Learning the language of your country as it's, standardly practiced, that's not about being white, it's about communicating. It's just this kind of a pathology, a collective pathology that we have, where we're so insecure almost about what it means to be black that we take a very narrow stereotype, and it's bad. Like, if you don't talk like Snoop Dogg, if you're not stomping with the big dogs and that's how I roll, then you're white. In my book, Project Girl, I wrote about when I was about to go to college. I was afraid to go to college. I didn't want to go to college. I deferred for 2 years because I was afraid I would become white.
There was a television series called Star Trek. Star Trek, you remember it?
Yes.
And they would have episodes in which, I remember one, in which there was hatred and distrust among a crew. I don't know whether it was a crew on the orbiting spaceship, or there was a bunch of people bound together economically, and they had hostile feelings toward one another. In this episode of Star Trek, these feelings became visible like little clouds in the air on the television screen. And these clouds would pass through the minds of one person, and what they were saying is that your attitude toward people and their attitude toward you create real things. Not that a thing is like an object, but there's something there that has been created by hatred and suspicion. And it can harm you, not in a psychic, weird sort of way, but in a real, like osmosis, that it's really there. I've told audiences for 2 years in the United States before I left, I couldn't write anything. And this had never happened to me before. I couldn't write anything. And then I left. I began to write again in 1972, which was the first full year after I came to France. I could write again. Hatred is averse to creation. Hatred will recreate itself, but not anything else. You see. It will feed on itself, but it won't give you food to do something different. Out of hatred, you won't create love. You just create more hatred. But if you can get rid of that hatred, then your being could say, well, I can create whatever is in me.
The Rodney King videotape emerged at the end of the Gulf War. and I'd been watching the Gulf War on TV for weeks, and I saw this videotape, and I don't know if the sound was turned down on the TV or what, but I thought, wow, things are out of control in Iraq, you know, Kuwait, you know, like, boy, what's going on there, you know, there's gangs of people just beating people up in you know, Baghdad or someplace. And then, you know, the next time the clip appeared, I realized that was L.A. and that was a black man, and these were the L.A. cops, you know, just viciously attacking this guy. A year later, I never imagined that a jury would acquit the cops who were caught, you know, on tape beating this man as mercilessly and viciously as they did. And you know, I can't say I endorsed the violent uprising that took place in LA afterward, but I completely understood it. And I was in a rage, but also just couldn't, you know, on some level couldn't believe it. I mean, how human beings could watch another human being being treated this way. And it occurred to me that a lot of people on that jury, if it had been a dog being attacked like that, they would have found the cops guilty of you know, of abuse against this poor canine. But a black man, well, hey, you know, he could have been dangerous, you know, was their attitude. Anyway, it really shocked and disgusted me, and you know, did make me wonder if I wanted to live in that country.
Like in the Black South, many black mothers have tried to save their sons, black sons, by teaching them how to crawl on their knees, or by teaching them, or by, this you see in black literature, or by calling them crazy. Crazy. Now you see this in black literatures. Say, oh, you got a brave black man. Brave. And in order to protect him, his friends, I saw this from personal experience in the South. His friends will say, oh, don't pay attention to him, he's crazy, he's crazy. He's not crazy. But if you call him crazy, and white people then can say, oh, don't pay attention to what he says, he's crazy, and he's home free. It's like the fool in Shakespeare. He can say the truth, no, he's a fool. And black people, I've seen it. They've tried it. Ways to emasculate the brave black young men in order to protect them from violence,
yes,
lynching.
Yes.
These are serious abuses that the country is guilty of.